the hell is going on? Why am I here? Welcome into the PHNX Suns show live from Studio K, brought to you by our friends at Circle K. Make sure to become a member of the Inner Circle. I am not Eric Ruby. I am not Gerald Bourget. I'm not Stephen. No, I am Espo, and I am here captaining the ship today because apparently everybody abandoned Stephen on this fine Friday.
It's like that sometimes.
What the heck happened? They just said, "Hey, I'm taking a vacation."
Running away from the grind. That's what it is.
I mean, Gerald said, "I got a baby now. I gotta go on a flight somewhere." And Eric said, "I'm just lost in California and maybe I'll never come back." So,
much earned, much needed breaks for both of those two.
Come on, Gerald had like a month off.
How much of that month was actually off?
I mean, the rest of his life's never off. He's got a baby now.
Also true.
I can attest to this.
Also true.
But come on, a month off? Fine, we'll give them both a pass. They work hard. I don't. I'm just here today. Ditty, D-I-T-T-Y, not Diddy. Says, how long before the show goes off the rails? I think you just got your answer there, my friend. Stephen, you were big on the film breakdown, right?
Yes.
Is this correct?
Yes.
I dabbled into it a little bit, and I wanted to bring it to you here in a second.
Okay.
I would like you to break down my film breakdown, if you would. So,
okay.
Ayrton, could you play that? Bet your NBA owner can't do this. It's another Espo's broke down breakdown. And Matt Ishbia decides to back down a 20-year-old intern like he's Charles Barkley. Then he decides to use his shoulder like he's Marty McFly's mom fighting off Biff. Then gets the up and under end one. And the best part, he dances like nobody's watching to celebrate. I'd take Matt Ishbia in a one-on-one matchup over 28 of 29 owners, with the exception being A-Rod. Did I do all right? I reached deep in the bag to try to figure out how to break that one down.
That was good. That was good. I think my only question for you is, why didn't you mention that Matt let that little dude push him from the block all the way to past the 3-point line to get the catch?
I had to like edit down. I had a whole bit on that. I had a whole bit on the hook. Like, he looked like the villain from I Know What You Did last summer. He's just swinging that hook there to get open. There was 3 offensive fouls there, or at least 2 offensive fouls in a travel. But I didn't want to put it in the video because Matt may be watching. I don't want to get the refs called on me.
Yeah.
I had to channel my inner Steven and do a breakdown for that.
I liked it. It was good.
You don't have to say that.
I want Matt to send us better clips to kind of dive into the weeds on though. That's my thing. But nonetheless, that was good. It was entertaining. It got straight to the point. I like it.
You know what I love about it is we get one clip from like 2 minutes at the beginning of that game. What was the rest of it like? Right? That's what I want to know. Right? Like, was that like the best? And then like the motor, ran a little too long and he had to, he kind of ran out of gas. Like, release the rest of the footage is what I'm saying, Matt.
That's all.
I want to see all 4 quarters. I need the breakdown and the stat sheet. All right. I need to know. Could you imagine having to guard him? Like
because he has the way the cadence at which he speaks tells you everything about how he plays basketball. And there's just a never ending. I'm always touching you. I'm always doing something. I'm doing always something annoying. So those are the guys that I used to hate having to go against because you have to match their motor. Otherwise, it's going to kind of overwhelm you over the course of a game. So Yeah, that's the scouting report for Matt Ishbia.
I feel bad for the kid because he's like, I'm in UWM's gym.
Yeah.
I got to guard this billionaire.
Yeah.
Dude did play college basketball.
Yeah.
And I got to just accept that it's a foul, right? I don't know if they were calling their own fouls, if there were refs, but he just had to accept it.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's tough.
And I think the celebration is gift worthy for everybody.
I know, sure. It's like that weird shimmy.
Yeah.
Like, hey,
we gotta work on the cellies, Matt.
Hey, look, Matt. Well, we can help. We're willing to help, Matt. I'm probably gonna get a phone call now from somebody over the Suns going, "You're a little harsh," and sometimes you just got to be realistic, especially with the dance moves.
Tell them to bring the film, come sit down with us, and we can have a Stephen study featuring Espo and Matt Ishbia and run over clips live.
The dancing did look like the dad at a wedding.
Absolutely.
Right. So maybe he's just prepping for one.
Or dad at the daddy-daughter dance. And dad thinks the dance is about him more than about the daughter. Either way fits for me.
All right. Enough of the Suns owner playing basketball. Let's get into a little bit of what is going on. It is August, all right? So you got to find something to talk about sometimes. Shumdog wants to know where alignment started. Which is that Sam Amico reported earlier today, by the way, that the Kings offered $63 million to Jonathan Kuminga over 3 years, and the Warriors would have gotten Malik Monk and a 2030 first-round pick. I find it interesting that this deal was a no from the Warriors' perspective. It's pretty obvious when you see this that the Suns really aren't going to have any ability to get in on this unless Kuminga makes it very clear he's not going to agree to terms with anybody but the Suns. And then still the Warriors hold all the cards.
Correct. And I think that's the stalemate that we're at right now, because Kuminga clearly would rather be elsewhere where he'll be kind of given more reign to do what he feels like he's his best self at. And the Warriors are like, that's cool, but we still have the leverage because you are not unrestricted free agent. We still have some ties here. So looks like he's ultimately going to end up in Golden State. But the fact that he's holding up the moves that both the Kings and the Warriors are trying to continue on with their summers with, I think speaks a lot to the disconnect that they're at. And it doesn't really seem like there's opportunity for them to kind of be aligned going forward anytime soon.
Yeah, it does not feel like either of them want a long-term relationship, but they don't quite know how to break up.
Correct.
They're not quite sure. How do we get out of this where we both feel like it's okay, and it doesn't feel like they've gotten to that point? I talked about it a little bit on Southwest Bias, but not a huge amount today. I still don't know that Jonathan Kuminga is the guy to bring in here, right? I feel I don't want them to rush to the altar with another semi-recognizable name just because they're available, right? You don't want to take the first option, excuse me, that falls in your lap. You've got to make sure it's the right option. And I just don't know that Kuminga is that guy. I'd rather wait, see how some of this season plays out, and then make a move if somebody else is available that somebody may have some interest, or go into the free agency market next year and test the waters more than I want to necessarily rush into this kind of deal.
Yeah, exactly. And that's pretty much what I share in terms of kind of assessing of this situation as well. I think I believe in the prospect of Jonathan Kuminga, but fit-wise, context-wise, what's different from the Suns as far as them already having an established hierarchy? He's going to be in a similar situation. He's not going to get more touches than Devin Booker. He's not going to get more touches than Jalen Green.
Yep.
So, like, what's going to give and make this situation different than where he's at with Golden State? And I also think I look at things a certain way, too, if you're not vibing with a way of playing that's shown to be as successful in production as any other in the last 15 years of the NBA. Golden State is one of the golden standards of the league for multiple reasons. So if you're not vibing with them, I don't know. That's kind of saying a little bit about where you're at with your career right now. Maybe you're too big for your britches and you're not quite where you think you are at this moment. I appreciate that approach because you don't get to this point without it, but I don't know if this is the right fit for the Suns. I feel like they should be trying to get someone that's a little bit more sure-handed with their approach to the game from the front court.
Yeah, I look at it, and I agree with you. I think it is a guy that very much probably has a little too much confidence. You know, those are rational confidence guys, right? And sometimes it's great. You want a guy that believes in himself, but they tend to price themselves out of their own market.
Literally.
Yeah. And for me, that's what I'm concerned about, because it was interesting. I was doing a little research, and I think it was NBC Bay Area had an article where they talked to a bunch of anonymous scouts and front office people. One scout said that this guy has everything it could take to be a superstar. The next scout said, if Golden State couldn't make it work, why the heck would I want him on my team? And that to me says everything you need to know. Nobody has a consensus on this guy. And to me, that's usually one of the more scary things, is when it's an in-between guy, right? There's some people that really believe in him, and other people that are just like, well, I don't know. And I agree. If it doesn't work in Golden State, I get that the system may not be perfect for you, but if you can't figure out how to put it together in Golden State, I don't know that you're going to figure it out in a lot of other places. And I think that's my biggest thing here is, like, if you can't put it together there, do the Suns have an environment that you're going to be able to put it together enough where you're going to live up to that potential? I don't like buying on simply potential. And I feel like that's what you're doing here, because you go, well, we could use a forward. And some say, hey, he's not even a power forward.
Correct.
So,
which he's not.
You know, but you jam him into that role here. I'd rather wait. So I think we're in agreement there. What do you think in the chat? Let us know. Also, you're in here. You're watching. You're hanging out with Stephen and I on a Friday afternoon when you're probably supposed to be doing work. Hit the like button. Why don't you tell us that you're enjoying it by hitting the like button for sure. Do we set a like goal on the program still?
It's Friday.
So we don't.
Let's go 110.
We're going to go 110. That's what you guys got to hit, is 110. Otherwise, Stephen has to stay here all weekend. Does not get to leave the studio.
I got my laptop, my phone, a TV screen in front of me.
Yeah, there's no air conditioning though on the weekend.
Yeah,
so,
I'm out.
So there you go. So if you don't get to 110, he's got to sit here with no air conditioning. That's just the way it goes. On the other side of the break, it's time to talk about Oso Ighodaro, what to expect, what we saw at Summer League, and so much more. So we'll talk to you about that right after this. It's Phoenix Raceway NASCAR coming back to the Valley. If you haven't experienced it, I highly recommend it. I wasn't a believer, right? I wasn't a believer until I went out last year. I thought, oh, who wants to watch cars go around in an oval? I was completely wrong. It was one of my favorite sporting events that I've experienced live here in the Valley. Phoenix Raceway is an unbelievable venue, right? It's out there in the mountains. You can actually sit essentially on the side of a mountain watching the race. I have never had an experience quite like it. And my favorite part was the Desert Diamond Casino infield experience, where you're in the middle of the track. You get to watch the racers in their garage. They've got a pre-race concert. Like, it's insane what you get to do out there. I highly recommend it, and you're going to want to get your tickets quick, because October 31st is coming up fast. It's October 31st through November 2nd. You're going to see the best in NASCAR going for that championship that weekend. So tickets, hospitality, and upgrades are available. Get yours now at phoenixraceway.com. And APS. It's hot. I told you, there's no AC in here on the weekends, but at home, APS has got you covered. But you know what you need? You got to get one of those programmable thermostats, the smart ones, not the old-fashioned. You know, you got the one button, and you're trying to hit the air to go down, and so you can make it cooler in your house. No, these smart thermostats are amazing. I've got one at home, and it can actually help you save money just by using them, right? So if you're not on a time to use plan, then you can still use a smart thermostat. For every 1 degree you raise your thermostat, you could save up to 2 to 3% on your cooling costs, which this time of the year is very, very important. But if you're not home, no problem. Just adjust your smart thermostat anytime, anywhere using your phone. I did it the other day. We were coming home. It was hot in the house. I lowered the air. Beautiful by the time we got home. So APS customers may be eligible for smart thermostats for as low as $0. Can't get any lower than that unless they paid you. When you enroll in the APS Cool program, if you're already a smart thermostat owner at home, see if it's eligible to enroll in Cool Rewards. Plus, free install is available at marketplace.aps.com. Must be an APS customer and pay shipping and taxes. Other restrictions apply. Go to marketplace.aps.com for more information. Andy in the chat says, Espo has to be, I lost that there. Espo has to be, that's how we got some of those interviews. All right. Unless I can't read. I don't quite know what, but we got Liz, we've got Steggy, we got Boom Shakalaka, we got Raul, Sean, Andy, Eric in the chat. Hit that like button. Eric says, I've been a Suns fan since 1902. Eric, I believe you're dead then. Because my quick math, that means you're 123, which feels like how long we've been waiting for a championship in the Valley. Man, doing quick math on a Friday, and I got it right. How about that? So he says it again. I've been a Suns fan since 1902. Asterisk. I think you're hitting the wrong number. I'm going to guess 1992, Eric.
Said real talk.
Is this our own Eric? Like, is Eric in California sipping like a margarita? Just not being able to type on his phone. Boom Chakalaka says Arizona wasn't even a state in 1902. Correct. No, the Suns were 66 years away from being a team. Mm-hmm. So I'm impressed. All right.
And then followed up with real talk.
Real talk, then crying emoji. Matrix says, bro thought he corrected it. LMAFO. So Sham Dog says Eric's burner. Eric says, nah, I can confirm 1902. Yeah. All right, it is a Friday afternoon. We're talking Oso Ighodaro here, though, on the rest of the program. Summer League. We all got a chance to see, I think it's fair to say, the new and improved Oso Ighodaro. I know that you talked about it in those post-game shows, but now with a little separation from those Summer League games, what stood out to you most about Oso and how impressed were you with him?
Yeah, what stood out most to me was the ways he was kind of featured, but also the ways he kind of exuded his confidence. I talked about it a little bit with Ryan Dunn earlier this week. It's not necessarily that he's doing something new, but it's more so the confidence in what he's doing, the ways in which that was featured on the Summer League circuit, and just kind of the growth that comes with doing something that you're not that you know you're good at, but also that you're confident with more and more time and time again. This is why Summer League is so valuable, because you can't replicate game like reps. Like, you see all of the training videos, how much of that is 5-on-5? Because at the end of the day, outside of playing one-on-one, there's no other way to really simulate game type of situation. So I value the 5-on-5 sense that we saw, and I think both of them showed a lot in Summer League.
Yeah, can we take a look, Ayrton, at the stats for Oso for Summer League? Averaged 12.3 points, 8.5 rebounds, 2.3 assists, shot 57%, had a 1.8 steals and 0.8 blocks per game. What stands out to me is that rebound number. You need him to be aggressive on the boards this year. I loved his passing. Obviously, we saw that court vision, but he took that next step in terms of kind of size and aggressiveness. I think a lot of guys, when they come to the league, especially second-round picks and bigger guys like him height-wise, it takes a year to understand the physicality of the game, the speed of the game, and what you really need to compete on that level. And it feels like he came in understanding that and having put on, and I hate it, it's always a cliche, but he put on the muscle that I think that he needs to physically compete. But I think it also gave him the confidence to be more aggressive while going through the lane. We saw some unbelievable dunks from Oso in summer league that weren't just, hey, he got by his guy, and they were man dunks. They were monstrous kind of dunks, to the point where in the gym you could hear that kind of gasp, like, whoa, all right, I didn't expect that. And I think it was the first game he had a big one. And that, I think, stood out the most to me, was just how that physicality has grown for him and how the confidence in the aggressiveness was. And I get it. It's summer league. You're going against guys that aren't the top talent in the league. But just being willing to do that, I think, will translate when the regular season comes around.
I think it will, and especially if they're able to kind of play to some of the things we did see from the summer league team, and that's being intentional with their spacing. Not just saying we have shooters so we have spacing, but actually using them for the leverage around someone like Oso, who isn't a shooting threat. Can you create space for him to attack? I saw someone mention they want Oso to watch Giannis film. I don't agree with that because he's not the Giannis tier of athlete, nor does he have Giannis's size. I would like for him to watch people like Ben Simmons and Draymond Green in particular, because neither of those two is a shooting threat. Draymond is clearly the better shooter than Ben, but neither one of those two is a threat.
You and I are clearly the better shooters than Ben, too.
For sure. Oh, yeah, definitely. Especially in confidence, for sure. But to that point, though, because of those two not being the types of players that get attention for shooting, you have to find other ways to have skills that can kind of connect things, that either open your teammates that are great shooters or potentially open yourself with your skill. And that's using handoffs. And that's something I'm breaking down in film that'll be out for us on Oso from his summer league showing. If you're listening later on today, it'll be out tomorrow morning, Saturday morning. Just kind of looking at different ways that he was featured to play to that strength, how that puts other people in positions to be successful, but also just generally his confidence in doing it. If Jordan not, again, part of the things as a head coach, if you have players that have weaknesses, it's not to say, well, you're not good at this, so I need you to work at that. What are you actually good at? And how can we allow for that to kind of be a puzzle piece for our offense? We saw a lot of that in summer league. I feel like there's a lot to lean into with that would translate even better to the professional level, because if he's doing this with Kobe Brea and Yuri Collins and Moses Wood, imagine what that's going to look like with Grayson Allen, with Devin Booker, with Jalen Green. So I think there's some translatability to the approach to summer league.
I was impressed that at times he was bringing the ball up.
Correct.
You talked about that, kind of those slip screens and everything. He was able to do the court vision and decision making. I mean, we saw it a lot in that rookie year, but he wasn't afraid to make that quick decision and make the right pass in those situations too. It makes me wonder, we got the question in the chat, should he be a 4 or 5? I wonder if they're going to look at playing him at the 4 next to, Mark Williams, Nick Richards, Kaman Malawach, and letting him be a little bit of a distributor. Like, I know everybody's stuck on, you don't have a stretch 4, but I feel like his skill set is unique enough that if you play him alongside those guys, his ability to handle the ball, his ability to see the court, that could be huge on the roll. I mean, finding one of those other guys in the dunker spot, like I feel like that ability could become a very valuable asset. And I think his place on this roster and the way they built this roster is at the 4.
I think it's at the 4 too. And it's because if you look at the way that he was used last season, it find it hard for him to be put on the floor with another big because of the way that the offense was ran. What if Jordan Knott is looking to build confidence in him and use him in ways similar to how he used Evan Mobley last season, where Evan Mobley, every time you grab a rebound when you're on the court, everyone else is not going to be looking for you to outlet pass it to them. They're just going to fill a lane in transition. That allows you to get into the offense a lot quicker, and it also allows for him to be playing to his strengths. Evan Mobley, obviously a significantly better shooter and improved upon that in his last season. Oso doesn't have that, but he does have a handle. And what he showed in Summer League was that he's confident in attacking space. So if he's grabbing rebounds and he's just taking it up the court himself, Devin Booker's filling the lane, Grayson Allen filling the lane, Mark Williams is running the rim to rim. There's a lot of opportunity for him to explore space. And if he's going to get a paint touch with 19 seconds on the clock, that's completely different than them trying to find a guard to get it to and then getting into the half court and then trying to get into their space. And it's just a lot more organized in that way.
I'm fascinated. And I think that's why this rebound number was so important to me in summer league because he put up big numbers on the glass, and if he can get that, and you can have Book and Jalen Green running down court rather than having to worry about who's bringing that up, I think it changes the dynamic significantly. And it makes me wonder, is there a world where he winds up in the starting lineup at some point, or at least plays significant minutes with that starting group? Because we hear, there's no true distributor. He could play that distributor role. And in today's NBA, I think we get so caught up in, there's no true point guard, right? But I think a lot of these offenses are predicated on other positions who can pass the ball, right? Guys that can make the right decision and have that court vision. It doesn't have to be the guy listed at point guard, right? I feel like those listings are now simply so they can make a pretty graphic on television, not because you really need those designations the way you traditionally did. I think he could play a big role like that.
He can, and I think it can come from him getting in grabbing goals, grabbing a rebound, and just taking off into the offense himself. But I think, again, back to the ways he's featured, if everybody's understanding when Oso's on the court, yes, understand he's not a shooter, but what can he do that's going to help to kind of combat the ways that he's guarded? If he's getting the catch and they're playing off of him, if someone else, let's say it's Devin Booker on the backside with him, runs directly at him, that gets into a dribble handoff. If no one's guarding Oso, that's a 2 versus 1. That's an advantage that the defense is conceding to you. You don't even have to create that yourself. I think there's little ways to leverage how he's guarded into an advantage, and that's literally what made the Golden State Warriors the best team in the league for 5-6 years in a row. Everybody knows Draymond can't shoot, but if you leave him unattended and Stephen Curry or Klay Thompson's right next to him, that's a dribble handoff, wide open threes, or they're going downhill, and now you're at their mercy.
Well, yeah, I mean they've got too many good shooters and guys around a guy like Oso that if the defense has to collapse on him, you're either going to that big that now is down there, an area that was the spot of weakness last year that now is an area of strength because you got 3 guys that can do that, or you're finding the shooter.
Yes.
There's always going to be those concerns because he only has the floater, but I'm really, really intrigued. Do you think he gets an opportunity to start this year, or do you think it'll be pretty well set that it's a Ryan Dunn, Dylan Brooks at those forward spots, and then we don't really see Oso just with the second unit?
Yeah, I think they're, as of this week, I feel like they're still going to be with Dunn and Brooks at the 3 and the 4 respectively, but I don't think it's out the realm of possibility that Oso potentially starts for this team. I think I probably looks at him as a project, and he might be the most ready to play the 4 off of defending against opposing 4s or even potentially guarding opposing 5s and allowing for Mark Williams to guard non-shooters and things like that.
Yeah. I'm going to be very interested to see how Ott manages these lineups, what he's thinking, because we got no real concept of what their offense is going to be in summer league. So the first time we're going to get a real view of it is in part in preseason. I mean, you won't see everything, but that's going to be interesting. And I think the other wrinkle with that is the fact that they have to go to China for those 2 games. And how does it impact how much time you actually have to prep, right? The league's going to put some pressure on to play the bigger names in China on the roster. So you're not going to not play guys in that. But how does that impact his ability to install that offense? How does it impact a guy like an Oso trying to find his way? Because those guys aren't playing. They play in China October 12th, and they come home for a game on October 14th.
Exactly.
They ain't playing.
No.
Like, you're going to have a lot of guys that are Valley Suns guys playing because just simple jet lag, it means that, playing on that kind of turnaround. So is it enough time for a guy like Oso to establish himself in training camp and in those preseason games to figure this out? All that's going to be very fascinating. I don't think these rotations are going to be completely fluid for a while when it comes to this offense.
Yeah, it's going to be very much a work in progress. I think Jordan Ott is going to look more so to establish less than roles per se, principles. That way, whoever the 5-man lineup is, they're going to understand that they want to play a certain style of play, and they'll kind of get some more scripted things as the season goes on. But it's going to be a lot of the ball in Jalen Green and Devin Booker's hands. I think that comes without saying. I think if someone can kind of counterbalance that some from the inside out, like Oso, it's just going to add another layer to their attack.
Let's take a look at what Ted Offensive said here in the chat. He says, it's not only that Oso can't shoot, he won't shoot. That hinders an offense. Teams will play off him and make life tougher on our offense. Mm-hmm. I think this is where the aggressiveness comes into play, though, right? Mm-hmm. Because if they sag off, and he tries to get in that lane, they're going to be forced to guard him. But how much do you think that will hurt his ability to be a contributor in this for this team?
Yeah, that's why coaches get paid what they do. It's real life chess.
Yeah.
If you're gonna space Oso in the corner and it's Jalen Green and pick and roll with Mark Williams on the other side, and Oso's man is helping all the way to the other side of the court where the pick and roll is happening, that means that Devin Booker is spaced next to Oso is going to have two players guarding only him and Oso. If that person, Jalen Green, can pass it to Oso, that defender that's guarding Oso, it got a long way to go. And if Oso's getting into some action with Devin Booker, again, that's 2 versus 1 math. That's an advantage. That's something that the Suns can always play off of, but you have to use it the right way. And then the other thing is, if they're playing off of him like that, he can also do things past just standing there being unattended. He can cut. He can go screen for somebody. They can get into flares. There's a lot of different things you can do. And I feel like Jordan Knott, with his time with the Cavaliers, showed to be someone that can find ways to take someone that's being ignored and flip that into an advantage.
Yeah, I think people have gotten accustomed to an offense that doesn't move, an offense that isn't extremely active, even the last 2 years, not just last year. Mm-hmm. If you played in that kind of offense, if that's what Jordan Knott did, yeah, Oso's not going to be able to play out there. But I think we've seen, based on what was happening in Cleveland, that movement's going to be big. Big guys rolling, is going to be a big part of this offense. There's not going to be standing around and watching just to see what a guy does. Mm-hmm. And that's where you can't have an Oso Ighodaro out there when it devolves into just simply one-on-one basketball. Because, then you can cheat off a guy. There are no actions. There are no movements. So he's going to be standing there. He's going to have the option of, do I shoot, which he's not going to do, or do I try to drive and it doesn't work? But with that movement, I think people forget that that's what the NBA is predicated on, because it was so one-on-one dominant the last few years.
Yeah, that's what makes the good teams sustained at a good level, because defenses are going to try different things. For Oso, we haven't really talked about too much of the weaknesses outside of the not being able to shoot consistently or really shoot at all outside of the paint. But teams are also going to put smaller players on him because they know that he's not a threat if he does get it on the block. He doesn't really have a post game. That's what we saw in the latter stretch of the season as well. So he has things to work through, but I think he can be better featured. And if he's being better featured, that can mitigate some of the stalemate that he saw when he was on the court on offense last season.
Makes sense. Boom Shakalaka says, Oso needs more cheeseburgers and ensure. Dude, did you watch Summer League?
Yeah, he's ripped now.
He added that bulk. There is definitely some bulk there, and I saw it in person. Right, it wasn't just on TV. Stood next to the guy. There is some heft to him now. Not as much as other guys, but still some heft there. By the way, Leo in the chat, I'll give you a virtual hug. I'm not driving to wherever you are. Leo said, Espo, give me a hug. I missed you. Virtually, I am giving you a hug. All right. So thank you for the kind words. Aridin, I'm gonna bring you in on this because I've heard, you're the freckled Mamba. You are a guy that I think could bring some perspective on this. Do you think Oso Ighodaro is going to have a role in this rotation? And what are your thoughts on what he did in Summer League?
I think Oso definitely should have a role. I think he's just a unique player, just with the IQ. Someone said it in the chat. We were talking about it earlier that, Oso and Book can run a Gortat, John Wall screen system. Oso has the IQ to do stuff like that. And if I'm correct, he was used somewhat as like a offensive hub when he was at Marquette. It's a big reason why they wanted to pick him and bring him to Phoenix. It would be, I think, a disservice not to use him in this offense for sure.
Steggy, I'm sorry, but This is a Suns show. You should have said Gortat Nash screen system. We don't subscribe to John Wall being part of that. Shout out to my boy Mark Chin, who I talked to last week. He's doing well, if you were wondering.
One of the best screeners I've ever seen in my life.
That is a man that made some money off of playing with Steve Nash. So
he did,
and I've told him that specifically. For
sure.
One of my favorite. Can I take an aside, because you know what? I'm only here once every 6 months now. One of my favorite things about Marcin Gortat. I'm there. I just started the first official podcast for the Suns. I think it's 2012. Mm-hmm. And I sit down with him and we do an hour-long interview. And I can't use like 30 minutes of it because he goes off on a rant about how he's better than Dwight Howard, how he couldn't believe that he was behind him, that he's so excited to be in Phoenix because he's the starter and he can prove that, and that he's the Polish Hammer and the Polish Gazelle, and that he'll prove them all wrong. And I was like, I love all this, man. And he started cursing up a storm too. I'm like, I love all this, man. I can't use half of it. I can hardly use any of it. And that's how he and I became friendly, because we had a good laugh about that. Leo wants to know how Frank and Jock are. Both are great. They just had their babies. Talked to both of them last week, and they're both dealing with what Gerald is. No sleep. Gerald isn't a high-performance athlete, though, so I think it hits him a little harder than it hits Frank and Jock. Plus, I don't think Gerald can afford night nannies like I'm guessing the other two probably can. On the other side of the break, we are going to look at what we think Oso will do in the regular season, and then we're going to talk a little bit about alignment and Brian Gregory. That's coming up next on PHNX Suns. Empire Today. You want flooring that's the best in the business? Don't go anywhere other than Empire Today. We've had their flooring in these offices for almost 2.5 years. We're getting ready to move, so I can make the choice to get whatever kind of flooring I want. I'm going back to Empire because that flooring in our GOAT studio has held up better than any flooring I have ever had, right? And we put that thing through the ringer. Like, no kidding. We're sliding stuff. We basically beat the hell out of that flooring, and it looks like what it looked like day one. And look, big box stores are going to make you wander through aisles. They're going to make you look at all sorts of different things, and then they're going to, gouge you on price too. I mean, that's just the way it's going to work. But Empire Today is going to take care of you. They're going to make sure that you are happy about what you're getting and that it's exactly what your home needs. So schedule a free in-home estimate today, because some things are just better at home. PHNX listeners can receive $350 in discounts when they use the promo code PHNX. Yeah, you heard that right. It's a $350 discount with code PHNX. Restrictions apply, like everything in life. There's restrictions. Visit EmpireToday/PHNX for full details. And I got to tell you about my friends at Mountain America Credit Union. They're on the Southwest Bias show that I'm doing now, and I love talking about them because everybody needs a checking account, right? You can't operate in this world without a checking account and online banking. If you do, you're jamming money in a mattress, and it just ain't a smart way to do it. I'm going to tell you that. But you might as well get an account with built-in benefits. My style checking accounts have the perks that you want. Restaurant deals, mobile phone protection. You know how many times I've dropped my damn phone and didn't have protection? Well, now I do, thanks to our friends at Mountain America. Telehealth access. You want to talk to a doctor, but you don't want to have to leave home? Telehealth's got you covered, and they help you do that. Loan rate discounts and so much more. Make my style your lifestyle at Mountain America Credit Union. Visit macu.com/mystyle to apply. Membership required based on eligibility. Some benefits required. No cost registration and activation. Terms and conditions apply, and exclusions apply as well. That was really tough for me to say. Exclusions apply as well. Let's hit that like goal. 110 is what we're looking at. I don't even know if there's 110 of you in here. I'm just going to say there's 300 of you in here.
Afterwards too.
And you need to hit that damn button right now. Hello says Oso is the same age as Mark. I assume he means Mark Williams. And Andy says, 23 is young. I agree. I'm 42, and 23 feels like a lifetime ago. So we're looking at Oso in the 2025-26 season. We saw what he did in Summer League. We know what he did in the rookie season. But what are you expecting out of Oso come this season?
I'm expecting for him, firstly, to establish himself as a change of pace option for them on the defensive end of the floor. I feel like for as much as his passing and as much as his IQ and his versatility on offense is kind of spoken about, where his most value is brought on is on defense. I continue to bookmark that moment, and I think it was like mid to late November where they're going against the Orlando Magic here in Phoenix. Bunch of injuries. He's given more minutes because of it. They put him in around the second quarter, halfway through it. Franz Wagner probably has like 15 or 16 points, and they just cannot stop him. He's going in pick and roll, and he's just bodying dudes and knocking down middies. Oso comes in, they flip those pick and rolls into switches, and all of a sudden, his water gets shut off for about a quarter and a half, and you get to the fourth quarter, and the Suns end up winning that game largely because of Oso's change of pace. I feel like his ability to switch is going to be something unique he provides to the Suns front court this season, and it's going to allow for them to be a different type of good defensively past what their maybe foundation is defensively.
So should we call him the utility company because you shut off your water?
You can call him that. There's a couple different things. That's a little long-winded, but yeah, you can call him
Have
the
you not
utility
learned
company.
that I am long-winded?
Also very true. KYP.
I'm no Eric.
Well, no one is. No one is. But yes, for sure.
I think that's an interesting point, though, when you're talking about his defense ability and the switch ability as well. Yeah. I think that's underlooked in his game. A lot of people get hung up on the shooting or lack thereof, but what he makes up for on the defensive end is a very big deal.
Yes.
And having that as somebody at the four, even if it's the backup four, or in the mix at center, it gives you such ability to switch at all positions, right? Yep. Which is such a key for a lot of teams in the NBA today. And I wonder if they'll play some small lineups too, where you're not going to have Nick Richards or Williams or Malawach, and you have Oso at that four position. You could have Hayes, you could have Brooks, you could have Dunn, any mixture of that. And see how it goes. So I'm intrigued by the defense a lot this year.
I imagine they have a nice bit of switching involved with their defensive process this season, whether it be going to small ball, which naturally you're going to switch more, or if Oso, let's say he either is starting or he's spending a portion of his minutes on the court with another center on, whether it's Nick Richards, Malawach, or Mark Williams. I imagine they allow for him to guard whoever it is from the opposing team that's setting the most screens on the ball, and allows for those other centers to be on the lesser of the front court players or someone that can't shoot, because that allows for them to kind of manipulate the matchups a little bit. And now if you're getting your switching while still having a center on the floor, that lessens the importance for Oso to not just be able to switch, but also have to go rebound. And then it plays into your offense. And I think that, again, Oso just being that change of pace piece that can play the five but can also play the four, if you understand how to feature him appropriately, it helps with building out lineups.
Are you concerned that he might fall out of the rotation again? There's a lot of options, and I think that what happened last year hurt his development because he and Ryan Dunn went weeks at a time without seeing the court. There is a numbers game that'll come into play. Yeah. And he's kind of, like we've talked about, caught in that in-between, between a 4 and a 5. Do you think there will be enough minutes for him to get that consistency, to develop that impact that he might be able to have?
I think he'll get the minutes. I think I might be on the less worried side of the spectrum from others, just because I see the value that he can provide more than, oh man, he can't shoot. What are they going to do on offense with him? I kind of understand how he can be used to feature his strengths as how they should be, to be complementary to the rest of the team. So I think there's opportunity for him to carve out a niche. Like I said, I don't think it's out of the realm that he starts. I don't think he will, but I would not be surprised if he does, just because he does have functional skills on both ends of the court that can help for them to kind of sustain a level of play. To that point, though, last season, the Suns were almost 10 points better defensively per 100 possessions when Oso was on the court versus when he was off it. They had a 121 offensive rating when he wasn't on the court. Needless to say, that's historic levels of bad and significantly the worst in the league. When he was on the court, their defensive rating was, I'm double checking it, They were at 112.1. 112.1 last season would have been, I think, like 9th or 10th. So it would have been on pace for 9th in the league last season in terms of defensive rating. So you leave from the absolute worst and historically bad to a top third team defensively in the lineups that he was on the court with. I think that matters a little bit.
Well, especially with the new mindset that they're taking.
Yes.
You want to be defensive. I mean, that's why they got Dylan Brooks. It's part of why Mark Williams is here. It's a big reason why Kaman Malawach is here for the rim protection. And I think you put him in a situation where he's not the only guy with a significant amount of defensive prowess. And all of a sudden, I think that impact even feels greater because he doesn't have to do as much, but he can focus on what he does best on the defensive end. I don't fear that he's going to fall out of the rotation. I wonder. I have so many questions about what Jordan Knott's going to do with all these guys that it's going to be really interesting to watch on that front. I look at it and I think that this is a year that you have to play him. You have to understand what he is, what he can be, and if he's a long-term part of your future. And I think that's a lot of this season. I'd love to tell you that this season is about competing for Larry O'Brien. It's not. Right? I think we've all accepted that this is a bridge year at best. I still think they'll be better than they were last year in number of wins. I think they'll beat the Vegas 31.5 over under. I think they'll be over that. But I think the reality still is that this is a lot about figuring out who's a part of this future and who is somebody that may just be making a pit stop in Phoenix. And I think Oso Ighodaro is one of those guys that you have to figure out. You're not going to fully unlock him in year 2, but you've got to figure out what that is. And the only way you can do that is having him on the floor.
Yeah. And I think the other thing in all of the decision-making that we're speaking to, he's not someone that was drafted by a Jordan Ott-led rendition of this team. So he's not a Jordan Ott pick per se. There's a lot of learning that's going to come with it. So you know what Ryan Dunn and Oso Ighodaro can bring, but for a new coach and a new system with new teammates around them outside of Devin Booker and Nick Richards and Grayson Allen, there's a lot of learning that's going to be going on. So they're kind of given a blank slate to work with. Last season, we saw a little bit, but context was different. Team wasn't organized. Bud was Bud. We give you some grace for that. Now it's time to prove what you've done over the offseason and what you can bring to this team. I think because of that newness, it's opportunity for both of those guys. Yeah,
I mean, having a coach that's engaged and actually trying to do something, maybe that could help a player. I don't know. Yeah, that's going to be a big part of it as well. I think Ott and what he's going to bring and the energy and the connectedness is overlooked in all this, not just with Oso Ighodaro, but I think overall and what the impact's going to be on this roster. He may wind up being the most important piece of this entire offseason, because if that clicks, you can outperform the talent on a roster. You've seen it. What was that? The 2014 team, they won 48 games when they were supposed to be tanking. And in part, that was because they got a young first-time head coach and Jeff Hornacek in there, and guys bought into things. And you got guys like, Miles Plumlee playing over what they had in the past, Gerald Green, guys that just kind of start to believe in themselves a little bit more because their coaches bought in, and that can become infectious. I think that could be in play for Oso as well.
It can be, and I think that's to his advantage. Just all of the newness. I think it just puts him in a position to where he can just probably be himself more than he was last season. I think Jordan Ott, where last season he was put in a box, I think he allows for him to explore a little bit more. You can't really get to a skill development until you can pinpoint all that a player is capable of, no different than you find those flaws. And I think if he's given the opportunity, like we said, what he did with Summer League, just all of the times he was able to just explore space with the live dribble, turn the corner, get a paint touch, score for himself, draw a foul, kick it out to somebody else. That's not stuff that he was being implored to do last season. I think there's a bit of confidence boost that comes with when your boss is imploring for you to be yourself more. I think that naturally puts him in a better position. So I think there's plenty of opportunity for him in this season.
Yeah, it's trust, right?
Yep.
If you don't have trust from your coach, your boss, whatever the case may be, it becomes extremely difficult to do your job. And I think last year, he and Ryan Dunn had to kind of look over their shoulder thinking, well, if I do this, that maybe isn't exactly what Bud's looking for, I'm probably not going to get my minutes. You can't play like that when you're in your head.
Impossible.
Right? So that will probably have an impact. I think that is part of why we saw what we did at Summer League. But I also like that he talked about embracing that leadership role. And it's weird to hear a kid that's 23 talking about embracing that, but that was what he was at Marquette. I think he feels implored a little bit more this year to be that again, because now there are younger guys on this roster.
Yes.
He can have an impact with that. The guy, that's going to be one of the starting bigs is 23 like him. Jalen Green's, a peer in terms of age. He and Ryan Dunn obviously have that unbelievable relationship. So all of a sudden, he can be a leader. He fits exactly what Brian Gregory has talked about in terms of what they're looking for in a character guy, in a leader. He is, I guess you would say, aligned with what they're looking for. So that's exciting as well.
Yeah. This is a great opportunity for him because I feel like the ambiguity that's around him as an individual player is also around the entire franchise right now, not just the players on the court, general manager, even the ownership at this point. Everybody's being called into question, and that doesn't have to be something that's negative. It can just be what it is, and it's what you make of the situation is going to ultimately turn it out to be negative or positive. So I think there's a matching of timing with that, and I think in that all is going to present an opportunity for him to be whatever the best version of him can be right now.
Yep, I agree. We want to talk about before we get out of here, because it is a Friday. We all want to get home on time, right? So there's not going to be overtime today. I'm just going to tell you that. But we haven't gotten to 110 likes, so you're just going to have to sit here. But I want to talk about the video that the Suns dropped behind the scenes of draft day, right? There was both. I'm so used to draft being one day. It was both days of the draft, the first and second round, and it was a unique inside look at the inner workings of what the Suns did. What were kind of the moments that stuck out to you? I had a few that I went, okay, I'm intrigued by this, but what stood out to you watching that video?
Yeah, I think, and obviously it's not we're watching the entirety of it. It's being edited to specific moments.
You didn't get the unfiltered version. I got 8 hours worth of footage. Well, how much did you get?
You got to pass that to me. I got 11 minutes and some change. Like 11 minutes and 38 seconds.
I got the whole thing. Lots of silence, though. I'm glad they cut it out for you. So.
Yeah. I think the first thing that kind of stands out to me is how quiet Jordan out was through that entire process. I don't know if that's intentional as far as him learning the guys that he's working with in respect to the timing that he was hired and brought in and kind of where they are in their relationship, or if that's generally how he is as the decision makers do what they do, and he just kind of observes and assesses what's going on. I'm curious to know more about that going forward, but that's probably one of the bigger things that stood out to me because ultimately, like, we saw Bud involved significantly last season with a lot of the decisions that were made. People kind of pinging around, what do you think? What do you think? And Bud is actively, giving his 2 cents on everything. And that's not an indictment against Jordan Knott because everybody operates differently. And needless to say, we would all like to see someone operate differently than Mike Budenholzer did. But I think that just stands out because it's unique.
Yeah, I kind of got the feeling in Jordan Knott's introductory press conference that may be just the kind of guy he is. That he says a lot when he says a little, right? Yep. And that he's just very focused on the very specific aspects of what he wants. And I'm sure his voice was heard throughout that process, but I kind of got that sense. A couple of things that stood out to me, and we'll get more in depth with some things, but when Brian Gregory, they make the pick and then he goes into another room to call Devin Booker. It just struck me as so odd. They're like, you can have all this unfettered access, but then Brian Gregory goes behind a closed door to make a call with Devin Booker, still mic'd, so we still hear it, right? But he had to go behind closed doors to call Devin Booker. But some people won't like this. I liked that Devin Booker was the first call that they made. You're all in on this guy. He's supposed to be your franchise player, and you've sold him on a vision. So they called him and they said, hey, we got the guy we wanted. And he sounded, from what little part of the conversation we could hear on his end, seemed enthusiastic about it.
I mean, if your head coach is in the room, your general manager is in the room, the right-hand guy to your owner is in the room, the owner himself is in the room, who else is going to be called first if it's not Devin Booker? And how could you be up in arms about someone else being called before him if he's not in the room?
Mrs. Brian Gregory. She wanted to know what was going on. I don't even know if there's a Mrs. Brian Gregory.
Correct.
But, no, I think you're right. I mean, if you're going to call anybody, it's Devin Booker, right?
Right. Like, we don't have to get up in arms about everything. Like,
I'm surprised they didn't have a phone on the desk that literally you just picked it up and it connected you right to Devin, right? Like, it was no surprise to me that Devin Booker was the call.
For sure.
The other one that stood out to me, it was when they got to that pick 41.
Yeah.
And you hear Brian Gregory talking, and he talks about, hey, this is going to be a two-way guy, right? Then it's him and with Ishbia and a handful of others in a circle, and he goes, "We're taking Brea. I'm the GM." And it strikes me as funny because it's I don't think he meant anything by it. I think he was just simply saying, "All right, we're divided on this. I'm the final call, and that's the way it is." But just the way he said, "I'm the GM," and then we heard him say, "I'm the GM" in one of the phone calls. I was like, man, I think it's a little surprising for him too. That not that he didn't, doesn't deserve the job, but just I am the GM. I'm making this call. It's my first NBA draft night. That stood out to me too.
Yeah, like Hello said, it was like I mentioned to both of y'all before we started the show. It's very much I'm the captain now. I mean, honestly, I would rather somebody wear their new title confidently than go about doing so timidly, especially in the fire that was the Suns' draft opportunity, because they're trying to make a decision at a spur of the moment if they're going to trade up in the second round and get somebody that's high on their board in the second round in Kobe Brea. You need to be confident about that, because if you're not, then you just stand back and you don't know who they end up picking at 41 at that point.
I'm going to walk around here and go, I'm the GM. Anytime we're getting water, I'm the GM. Yeah, we are getting water. Like I'm going to go full Brian Gregory. I'm in alignment with Brian Gregory on this. I'm going to remind people that I'm the GM because I have confidence issues is what I'm saying. Did anything else in the video stand out to you that caught your eye while watching it?
I love how excited they were when Rasheer Fleming saw it as an opportunity for them to go and get in the second round, and ultimately them making the decisions to move up and execute on that thought. Also, the excitement around Kaman Maluach. It wasn't just Brian Gregory. I feel like Matt Ishbia, you can see him in the background a little bit as well. It generally felt like the energy shifted upward when they realized players that got picked before number 10, when they after they got the pick, and then ultimately that they had that opportunity. So I have my reservations about Maluach. It's very much a project of a player that he is. But to see them confident and then excited about that opportunity coming to fruition, I think that did a little bit for me in terms of giving me some reassurance.
Yeah, and it was a guy that they obviously did not think would likely be there. You heard him say, "Oh, we need Fears to go in the top 10 for this to happen," which did play out, obviously. So you could tell that he was high on their board, higher than 10, and they got the guy they want. One other thing that people took a little umbrage with was that Matt Ishbia was in there and seemed heavily involved. I'm sorry, but I have to go talk to my bosses on anything serious going on. Like, why is this such a shock to people? I literally have to call people in our corporate and go, hey, I'm doing X, Y, and Z because it's a big move. I'm just letting you know, right? Like, why are we shocked that a guy pays $4 billion for something and goes, you know what, I want to be in the room where it happens? Like, is there any shock in that?
There shouldn't be. But this fan base is in dismay because of everything that preceded this upcoming season. So I give them a little bit of grace in areas where I would have got against them a little bit.
You're kinder than I am.
Of course. I think we knew that coming into today's episode.
that wasn't a doubt. I'm more loquacious and not as kind. We knew both of those things. Speaking of loquacious, I believe Eric's back on Monday, so you won't have to hear me rambling. Maybe him. Big thanks to Ayrton behind the Mac at Freckle Mamba. which is a hell of a nickname, right? I get Espo. Somebody dropped 4 letters off my last name. He gets the freckled mamba. We get the professor right here, Stephen Garnier. I mispronounced it because it's been so long.
He's rusty.
Prigion Gardner. There we go.
Yep.
There we go. You can follow him at Stephen PG3. You can follow the show at PHNX_Suns. You can follow me at Espo. And remember, when your owner can commit 2 offensive fouls but still score the impressive end one, you gotta love that. Ahoy ho!
We all silly like the mayor.